curious to know about BD and marketing and what lawyers were doing pre-pandemic and then since the pandemic and then coming out of the pandemic. Can you kind of walk me through like what they were doing before, what they were doing during the pandemic, and now coming out of it?
Sure. So, I mean, pre-pandemic, people were doing everything from attending sporting events, going out for lunches, all those kind of normal things that we were all doing. There was the educational, the what have you. Once that stopped, and it became a challenge. I actually know one lawyer I worked with for many years. His whole business development was taking people to hockey games and basketball games. Steak dinner, hockey game, basketball game. He was out twice a week throughout the year doing that.
Yeah.
Well, as soon as those shut down, he didn't know how to do business development otherwise.
Right.
And he ended up, I mean, he was close enough to the end of his career anyways, but he's actually retired.
Okay. Yeah.
He retired.
Now he's got plenty of time for hockey games.
That's right. But now he has to pay for it himself, I guess.
Shoot. All right.
But those people that didn't transition into something else during the last couple of years are going to be missing out now. Like, they didn't make the effort to reach out to someone and say, hello, how are you doing?
Yeah.
What you used to do over dinner or a coffee, if they weren't doing that over Zoom or a telephone call or a text, those relationships will have changed. And so someone else might have got into those relationships, started building up better. So the people who made that effort during the last couple of years are going to be very successful, because now you're going to be able to say, okay, we don't need to do this on Zoom. Let's go get that cup of coffee instead, and we can talk a bit more about more than just the law.
Yeah. Were there one or two things that you were suggesting to your attorneys they do to pivot from the in-person to using Zoom more effectively? Or like, I'll give you an example. One of my clients, actually a couple of them, were sending bottles of wine to their clients, and then they would have a bottle and they would do like a wine tasting. Let's have a cocktail together, bottle, glass of wine together over Zoom as a way to stay connected. At least we're talking about the wine and what do you think of it and all that. Anything like that or different than that you were recommending at the time for people to stay top of mind?
We're doing a lot of similar things. So any sort of trying to make a social event virtual. But it's tough, right? It's just definitely not the same experience. You can't have those side conversations with people if you're in a group of 5 or 10 or whatever it is. So those were a challenge. What we did talk a lot about was actually just picking up the phone and calling people.
Yeah.
And not doing it over Zoom.
Okay.
Right? So many people didn't want to. There was a point that too much Zoom was too much. Now that said, one thing I've talked about a lot is Zoom has changed what we think of people. Or not, I shouldn't say change how we think of people, but have taught us more about each other. So as we record this, we're doing it on Zoom.
Yep.
I can see your background. I can see your Jordan jersey in the background and what have you. So we could talk about something like that because I know what your home is like now. Before, you would never have known that. You wouldn't see a child walking in behind somebody, or the cat walking by, or the dog barking in the background. So we've actually become a bit more intimate in how we know people, because there's that barrier has changed.
Yeah.
So you have to be cognizant of how that changed and how that differed in those relationships. So in some ways, it's actually made it stronger, but you do need to get back in face to face and seeing people.